why are people under-extracting their coffee more than over-extracting their coffee? In my mind, it's just simply hard to extract coffee in general.
You can do all the previous steps correctly, but if you're careless, you just ruin your shot anyways.
Hello and welcome to the Valor Coffee Podcast. This episode, me and Riley get to hang out together and talk about under-extraction, what it is, how can you fix it, how does it relate to espresso dialing in or making pour-overs at a cafe or at home. We also get to taste one of the best coffees we've ever had. Stay tuned for that one because it is a doozy. A couple parts of our program that we love collaboration on is our Q&A. So if you guys have questions for us, you can send them to us via Instagram or the YouTube comments. And we'd love to engage with you guys in that way and share our thoughts and answers for you. We also do this coffee review segment. It's such a cool opportunity to taste coffee from all over, share our thoughts on it, and see how it holds up to the coffee we get to roast and serve every day. So if you have any coffees you want to send our way, just let us know. DM us, send a letter, a package, and we'd love to try it out. Just always wanting to highlight this Valor coffee course community that we're starting to build just as a network opportunity for our partners and people in the coffee industry to learn together, grow together, be able to help each other out, build each other up. It's such a fun opportunity that we're getting to step into. And there's a link to sign up for updates and news on that in our bio. So make sure to check that out. And as always, if you like the show, it means so much to hit it with a like, hit it with a comment, a subscribe, a share, all that jazz. It really goes a long way, and we really do appreciate it. We hope you enjoy the show. Let's do this thing.
Happy Halloween.
If we're a brewery, happy Halloween, dude, and happy Honda days. Seriously, they're coming.
Ross had to take off for Halloween, stay home like he does every year. So it's just
in his vampire
me and
costume
Ethan this morning. Nah, but seriously. We're recording on Tuesday this week because we have a big old catering event tomorrow.
Huge. And I just couldn't stand it, so I'm going to get out of town tomorrow,
and
too.
then Ethan's going to leave town. Stay tuned for details.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so Tuesday mornings, Ross takes his child to school and
Good
has
dad.
a little daddy-daughter time. So here we are, just me and Ethan, drinking some fritas.
Fritas.
Where'd we get this coffee, man?
This coffee, it was roasted in Amsterdam. Do you think people say Amsterdam? Who cares?
If you say Amsterdam, comment below.
Yeah, I got a problem. Our friend and coworker, Sam, who's one of the managers at the Alpharetta 44 Milton Avenue location, was out in Washington. Got his mind blown by some awesome coffee at a coffee shop in Washington State, and then bought some for us to have on the program. So we are drinking a Geisha Natural from Colombia.
It shows.
Colombia La Cia. And yeah, it's crazy in the cup, dude. Crazy in the cup. As you may be able to tell, you probably can't by the cameras, we've been feasting on this coffee.
We sucked them down. That cappuccino
was fuego. I was thinking to myself, that's going to be the kind of quote unquote worst part of the process, because usually we steer away from a lot of fruitier, brighter coffees when you're mixing milk. But I mean, if you're kind of into it, and you're getting this like fermented blueberry yogurt thing going on, which reminds me of some stuff you've cooked up in your days. Game on. Okay, game on, because it's fuego. Sorry I said fuego twice. I'm trying to kick.
You really mean it.
I'm trying to kick the habit, but this coffee is awesome. So thank you, Sam. And if you just stay tuned to the end of the ep, we will give you our opinions on not only the packaging but how the coffee's tasting.
Yes, we will.
Hey, you got any questions over there, Mr. Q&A?
I do have a question. It's not my question. Someone asked us the question.
Okay.
So we posted a reel from last week's episode on overextraction. And sometimes it's funny when you cut it into a reel. It's because on the podcast, obviously, there's context when you act the dunce.
As I do.
In the reel, you were like, what even is extraction? And I was answering saying extraction is where you use water to pull flavor out of coffee. And Alan McNairn commented on this reel and said,
friend.
Why stop at water? what other liquids could get involved in the party? Have you gotten funky and tried anything?
Well,
To which
Alan,
I say, no, I haven't.
not yet.
Not
Alan.
yet. But I have heard about it. I'm sure this has been around for a while, but I guess a few months back, I'm a Chef Steps Studio Pass member.
Wow.
It's my favorite cooking website, Chef Steps. And they posted a recipe for milk brew coffee. And I think we got to try it just to see what's up, because it's definitely
Using hot milk?
cold milk.
Cold milk.
Yeah, cold milk steeped cold brew style. So you're basically just replacing water with milk in cold brew fashion.
What's the mineral content of milk? That's a $1 million question right there.
Wow.
Because there's more stuff in there than water.
That's a parts per $1 million question. Yes.
Signed, sealed, delivered. That was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know, but all I know is they just say grind coarse, put it in a French press with milk, let it steep for 4 hours, stir it up, and let it steep for another 12 to 24. And
12 to 24
what a
is
vast difference. That just shows how cold liquid extracts coffee way differently.
Hey, it's a variable, man. Temperature is a very real extraction variable.
But yeah, as far as other liquids than that,
I think we're going to try root beer next.
root beer,
Apple cider.
wine.
Oh, beer.
All right, so you're going to warm your wine to 95 degrees Celsius.
Do you think something with like a high percent of alcohol would extract more because it's such like a pungent, strong liquid?
Hey, add that to the notes.
Whiskey?
Extractions or alcohol's effect on extraction.
Wow.
That's a paper we could write right there.
Yeah, get it peer reviewed.
But yeah, thank you, Alan, for
Thanks,
the
Alan.
question.
Hey, it's those kind of questions that grow the industry, They expand horizons.
Yes, they do.
Never change, Alan.
Well, hey, since Ross isn't here to push us along, hey, what you been into? What you been up to lately, Ethan?
Okay, well, I mean, if we're going to get personal here, as aforementioned,
Also, why are you so dressed up?
today's Halloween,
Yeah.
and I do not like Halloween. I don't want to dress up, but I do not want to be like anti-Halloween where I don't dress up on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that, no, look, you're just not in your own head like I am. You're just living your own life, and I respect that.
Did I forget it was Halloween? Yes.
Yeah, it's early, man. It's early. So sometimes I'll just wear clothes in my closet that I haven't worn for years, like this old suit. And I was like, what? And the two cafes, so Dunwoody was going to dress up like Barbie and Ken, and the Alpharetta Cafe is dressing up like cowboys and cowgirls. I was going to bring a cowboy hat and be able to be like a 90s cowboy, or take it off and I could be 90s Ken. Try to appease both as I'm, a part of both communities. But then I forgot the cowboy hat.
Ooh.
So now I'm just a guy in a t-shirt suit.
I was seriously sitting here thinking about whether I had a cowboy hat in my car or not.
Thank you.
Because
Yeah,
I think I took it out because I was a cowboy for Halloween.
when did you dress up?
I went to a church trunk or treat on Sunday.
You would.
And I had a migraine, and as soon as I got there, I had to turn around and leave my family there.
You just dropped them off?
Pretty much. My parents were there separately, so they just rode back with them.
Man.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
I'm sorry.
But I was, for that limited amount of time,
Get out of the car.
a cowboy.
Wave.
Yeah.
And I'm out of here.
Because Jude was a cow.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
You're going to show me pictures of that
yeah.
off screen.
of course.
Okay, that's with that. What I've been up to, I'm actually going on a road trip
What?
tomorrow. I know.
Did you put in a request off?
I kind of did. I called around, made sure everybody was cool with me scooting out. But our friend Dale is moving to Montana. So I'm going to get to hop in his Tacoma, and we're going to pull a trailer from here to Montana. It's going to be super exciting. Don't really have a ton of planned stops along the way, so if you're listening to this and you know about something awesome in between here and Montana, we're going to do the Kansas City, Sioux Falls, Rapid City, Bozeman, that little route up there near Glacier. Mm-hmm. A lot of things are just like kind of off the highway a good bit, and we're trying to like get there, because we're going to be passing Badlands, we're going to be passing Yellowstone, we'll be next to Glacier, so we'll see what we hit, but it's kind of like a get there and unpack situation.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, man.
Do you have any amount of time once you get there?
I think if the drive goes great, we'll get in around Saturday afternoon, and I'm going to leave Sunday afternoon. So probably unload Saturday, and then maybe just see a couple of the friends that moved up that way and get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
I know it's funny. That's what someone said. They're like, oh, you get to hang out in Montana? I'm like, well, I'll just be there for a day, but...
It's just sad. You haven't been to Glacier, right?
I haven't done anything in the Midwest or like the Mountain West or anything like that.
Yeah. If you should just try to get them all to hang out and have a picnic in the park. That would be cool. I'm sure that won't happen, but
yeah, it'll probably be like 20 degrees. It's cold up there right now.
Yeah, I saw Zach posted a picture of some snow.
Really?
Recently. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
I think he went on a snow run, and I was like, that sounds like, I hate running. So I was like, that sounds like the worst time of my life.
Snow run. Yeah, but I'm really excited. I've never done a cross-country road trip, so I'm super excited. And then day-to-day personal update, been playing a lot more disc golf. I know.
I saw the discs in the truck bed.
The discs are in the truck bed. They're always ready to roll. It's just fun, man. You can kind of with our work is super close to a course, take the shoes off, work on my ankle stability, and just kind of jog around and spend half the time looking for a disc you threw in the woods. But, dude, what's going on with you? Let us in. We all want to know.
Well, dude, so back when Michaela and I got married, I think a Christmas gift our first year or something of those sorts was like those Philips Hue bulbs.
It all changed, huh?
Because we had, everywhere we've ever lived has had ceiling fans as like the only source of lighting. And I'm just not a fan of that.
Do you like the fan function though?
The fan function's great. I love a good ceiling fan. Just not the lights.
Ceiling fan light. I couldn't agree more.
Because if there's gonna be ceiling lights, I prefer like recessed can lights. That's me. That's there's a little something about
not
me.
Not the fluorescent panels.
No, not the panels. But we got those, and we got a bunch of lamps, and so we kind of had that as like a smart home feature. And then every 6 months to a year, I'll get like an itch to just like do some other little smart feature in my house. So it's kind of progressed a good bit over the years. We have some like smart curtains now that whenever the sun rises, it detects sunrise, and then we'll raise the curtains, and then same with sunset. And that's all through, because everyone's phone now comes with, all iPhones come with the Home app.
That's beginner level crap.
But if you want to get a little deeper, you get this, it's basically a little computer. You can put it on any computer technically, but a lot of times people will buy these small computers.
Affiliate link in bio.
And you install a program called Home Assistant. And that's where you can write some crazy, basically code scripts to run. So this past week, I put these motion presence detectors in my kitchen and living room. And the code I was able to write with it basically says between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., when you walk into the kitchen, set the lights to a certain brightness. And then when you walk out after blank minutes, turn the lights off. And since it's a presence detector, when you're in there, it knows that you're still there, so it won't turn them off because you're not making movements.
I think when people hear smart home, they think about some sort of Jarvis or Siri that you just bark orders to and it does all the things. But it sounds like what you're building is more
effortless
and like behind the scenes of like it's just happening because it's detecting things and you're not telling it to do it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of where the annoyance was, because we always had those light bulbs, and we have a Sonos sound bar, and you can say, Google lights on, but we just don't even like having to do that interaction. So the detection of motion or presence, knowing that you want the lights on, it's fun.
Simple.
And Michaela hates it, just to be clear.
Does Jude notice it? Is it in his wheelhouse yet?
No. I'm like, it's funny with kids. You're like, when do they even start thinking about lights on, lights off?
Oh, geez. Wow.
I mean,
deep cut.
Clearly he knows when the lights are off and he goes to sleep, but I don't know about all that. That's kind of makes my brain hurt.
We can talk about sleep training another day, huh?
Yeah. Next episode.
Sleep training. How to sleep train your baby. Okay. Last week we started a little mini series, huh? One of two, probably, around extraction. So you probably listened to the former about what is overextraction and how can I fix it. And if you didn't, here's just a couple quick highlights, because today we're going to be talking about what is underextraction and how can I fix that. But with just in extraction in general, we're talking about passing our water through our coffee, taking out the flavors that we like and want, getting the strength that we like and want, and assessing if it has been under-extracted or over-extracted, too much, too little. And so with over-extraction, we were talking how, at least in our tenure in the coffee industry, we've seen that be a lot more rare of an occurrence, that people aren't really maximizing or getting the most out of their coffee, but they're settling for probably chronically under or uneven extraction. Mm-hmm. We say this because we have fell victim to this over the years. Even just looking back to when we were on our cart, I think we've famously talked about how we used reverse osmosis water, which has like very little to no mineral content. Mm-hmm. And we would just keep trying to over extract our coffee, and we would be doing like 45, 46 second shots. And we're like, it's better than the 25-second shot, but it's still like,
Yeah.
And so we've been on a journey of trying to over extract our coffee for a long time now. And where do you think we are on that journey?
Man, I think a part of it is, you can always hope for and want higher levels of extraction.
Yeah.
But if you are falling within a certain parameter and it's tasting good, then you kind of have to do what is efficient for the operation. So even we have the Barista Hustle auto comb now at both cafes. And it's pretty quick. It's a good way of assuring that you can grind a little finer when you're using it, because your puck prep is better.
Yep.
And puck prep is a big part of not channeling shots. But we had to really, say, is this worth doing on every single shot that we pull? Mm-hmm. Because it does take a good bit of time. So what does a latte made with an auto-combed shot taste like versus an un-auto-combed shot? And if it's not a lot of difference, then, being real to yourself and saying, we're going to have to take the path that's more efficient and is going to serve people in other ways other than a perfectly extracted shot. Not saying that the other one isn't even already a good extraction, but I guess that's a kind of a boring first answer. But a part of the realization is just saying, what level can I get to this realistically?
Right. Yeah. And people may be asking the question, why are people under extracting their coffee more than over extracting their coffee? And help me out with this answer. But in my mind, it's just simply hard to extract coffee.
Yeah.
In general, because you're having to use variables that are like at unstable places. Like water needs to be above 200 degrees, but if you let water sit, it'll just find its way back to room temperature.
Yep.
If you need to grind your coffee fine enough that there's enough surface area for the coffee to extract well, but people are chronically grinding it too fine or fine enough that it channels and it doesn't really saturate the coffee. And then, I mean, as far as also mixing that with building out the perfect recipe for, I think we talked about it last week, but when you start brewing, you're at your highest amount of strength and you're on this downward trajectory towards weakness. And then with extraction, you're at your lowest and you're on a journey all the way up. So people are trying to find their perfect sweet spot there of balancing extraction with strength.
Yeah.
And especially with espresso, that can be hard because you're using such a limited amount of water. You know, you don't have a ton of wiggle room to play around with. And then that seems like the big three in my mind for why people under extract their coffee. I don't know if you have any other thoughts around this.
Yeah, I mean, again, the last thing is I would say just confusion, really, and especially with more novice brewers not understanding uneven extraction, because you're going to have a situation where you might grind too fine. And then even for more advanced brewers, honestly, who may be checking their extraction yield and percentages and stuff and TDS, you're going to grind too fine. You're going to have a channel. That channel is going to lead you to taste maybe under extracted and over extracted qualities, but especially over extracted qualities. And in last week's episode, we talked about, you know, a lot of the times people think they're over extracting their coffee when realistically they just have an uneven extraction. You might check your TDS and then throw that into the extraction yield equation and then see that it's 18%. And you're like, why is my coffee tasting bitter if this is 18%? So then you're just faced with all sorts of issues. And I think we have definitely been in that position ourselves. But I would say that is a reason that a lot of people might be under extracting, is because of confusion. And then because it's not just under extraction, it's uneven extraction, and they don't know how to necessarily diagnose that problem.
Once again, we're saying this from experience, not of judgment.
Yeah.
You know, because I definitely know what it's like to taste a shot that pulled really quickly and be like, but it still has like a gross finish.
Yeah.
And it is lingering and it has that like polyphenol astringency. But it's also, it definitely, all the specs make it look like it needs to be extracted a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing that you mentioned off air that I thought was a great insight was, in specialty coffee too, people are very comfortable with acidity, which is a good thing to highlight, you know, the brightness in coffee.
Yeah.
But we talked about it last episode. But the shout out to Barista Hustle for this little nugget of wisdom. Matt was talking about how salts and acids break down and are more quickly soluble than sugars. So when we're getting flavor out of the coffee, we're getting those salts and acids first, and then we have to keep extracting to get that sweetness. And so we see a lot of times people stop once they get that like flair, that salt, that acid, that pop. But if they keep extracting, they're going to be able to match that with balance, sweetness, like maybe a more round profile.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going for.
For sure. Yeah. Matt Perger has said in a lot of his stuff that perfect extraction doesn't exist, but the best extraction lies just before over extraction. So extracting as much as you possibly can before you start to taper off in quality. And I totally agree with that. If it was easier to over extract coffee, I would say always over extract and then just start pulling back from there until you find that window.
Yeah. It's not like I was dialing in this pour over because I made it once, but my thought process when I was making it was like, I know this is a really good coffee, so I'm going to grind it pretty fine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see if I can like over extract this, because this is just a little example, but you know, we're using a probably super light Colombia geisha. And so that's going to have a lot of fruit. It's going to have a lot of funk. It's going to have a lot of like pop, but I know it's really only going to be enjoyable if we're able to really extract it to the point where we're able to get those like sugars and that chocolate and that like close to bitterness, fullness of flavor. Because if it's just all acid, it's going to be like terrible to drink. It might be fun to drink it in the first 2 sips, but then you're like, I don't want to drink this whole cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I can't. But what was nice is just by grinding finer, but also ensuring no channeling through proper distribution, smaller pulses, I was able to kind of stretch that brew and even make the brew time longer. I think it's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that?
Hats off to me.
It was before we started reviewing, but one week we were drinking a coffee from someone, and on the bag it said acidity isn't a crime or something like that, or like
That was the Italian coffee.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was called.
Excellent coffee. It was crazy, but I would argue that acidity is a crime if it's not balanced with sweetness, in my personal opinion. And that's the thing. I mean, what you were saying, so many people get into coffee and their friends show them a specialty coffee, they taste it, and you're like, whoa! And they're like, no, it's supposed to taste like that.
It's good.
It's supposed to be acidic. And then that is the trajectory that a lot of us start with. That's why so many people who are just getting into specialty start with naturally processed coffees and anaerobic naturals and all this stuff. And they tend to go towards the level of acid and then maybe potentially under extraction. So it's kind of the same reason we had that one program where we talked about why people underdevelop their coffees. It's because it is accepted for coffee to taste like that. But if people would just extract their coffees a little bit more, figure out the way to get that extraction yield up, they would probably like the coffee. For sure.
And that's, I think, even a trend in roasting that we've seen start to develop is that. Yeah. Hey, that was unintentionally perfect. Is that people are starting to kind of get more comfortable stretching their coffees a little more, developing their coffees a little more to see how they can push the boundaries of sweetness and not just get the fruity, green, acidic flair.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked around what is under extraction. It's just not getting enough out of your coffee. We've talked about how it's super common. We have seen, and I mean, would you say that's pretty fair as looking back on your travels over the years of going to coffee shops? I'm like, I don't know if I've ever like gone to a place and been like, this espresso's over extracted.
Yeah, I think I used to think that whenever I was, maybe my palate was developed enough to taste over extraction. But again, looking back, it's just almost always uneven extraction.
Yeah. So if we're talking about, let's just talk about espresso for a second in the cafe. If you are chronically under extracting your coffee, you're making espresso, what are some things that we can do to remedy that and extract more out of the coffee? One thing immediately is just grind finer.
Yeah.
That's probably like the most like, okay, I know I have grind size as a variable in my tool belt. I'm going to grind finer. After that, you start to get more complex because if it's not better, you are dealing with some deeper issues involving probably technique and channeling, which is a lot harder to spot.
I would say even grind finder is a great first place to start if we're just, blanket statement, how to extract more. I'd say if your espresso doesn't taste good, step one, just look at the puck after you're pulling it. Is your screen imprinting on the puck? Is there a crack in it? Is there a divot somewhere? Because at that point, maybe you're already grinding too fine and you're
already channeling.
And you're already channeling, and you just think that it is under or over extraction because of other variables.
Yeah.
You think it's under extraction because your shot's pulling in 19 seconds, but it tastes over extracted because you just have an uneven extraction.
Yeah, and we're talking around, I feel like you can't go through this podcast without saying water finds the path of least resistance, but it is just a lot harder to get water to like fully saturate your coffee puck or coffee bed and start drawing all of the coffee out equally. So you really need to start focusing on your technique, your distribution, your tamp, your basket size, what you're saying, your dispersion screen, and figure out, is there anything that's kind of forcing water to go through at an uneven amount or like uneven spot. And I mean, this isn't really the platform for this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Like, thinking about the way people tamp is probably huge. If you got all those mojos like polishing and like twisting their tampers around. And, okay. So once you tamp espresso, I don't think we've said this on the podcast because it's kind of silly, but we do like the blizzard test all the time, you know? So once you tamp an espresso, it should be like you've applied enough pressure and the coffee is fine enough that it kind of like seals itself into the basket. And it's so sealed that if you turn the portafilter upside down, the coffee is not going to fall out. There's probably like two big areas where once you have made your espresso, like puck, you have a pretty high percentage chance to dislodge your puck. The first one is when you're withdrawing your tamper. So that would either be through polishing, you're like throwing your tamper around and the sides are hitting the walls of the basket, and that is dislodging the puck. Or if you use something like we do at our cafe, which is a big step tamper, you're pulling out your tamper too fast and it's creating a vacuum, and that vacuum suctions out your puck and dislodges it just enough where there's that like empty line around the whole basket. So that's one area. And then, I mean, I can't imagine how often this happens in the cafe because of just like, I'm sorry, this word is, it's tough, but carelessness of just like throwing it in the portafilter.
Oh yeah.
Because you have all this metal, right?
The grip head.
And you're just like slamming up the portafilter and throwing it in, but you're really hitting the metal basket on the metal group head, and that hit just like totally F's your puck, you know? All that work of like making sure everything's perfect and even, you just like slam it up there and you're done.
Yeah.
But you want to really put it in there gingerly and tighten so it's just hitting that rubber gasket, and then you're brewing it right away. But I can't imagine how much alone that kind of changes everything, because once you have that like dislodgement happening, it's so much easier for the water just to go around the sides of your puck that you're going to experience channeling and uneven extraction every time.
Yeah. I see that a lot with it's always funny when I'm scrolling through my Instagram and I see people really love to post these videos of elaborate puck prep where they do everything right. You know, they're doing all these things that, or they're doing a lot of things that could increase their extraction yield. And they're always home brewers. They're never, you know, in a cafe where things are faster paced, but they'll put a paper filter in the bottom of their basket, or they're using Weber Workshop's like $350 portafilter because it has the way it's built, the way its basket is, the holes extend all the way to the edges of the basket. So it's like a more even extraction throughout. All those things are cool, you know, whatever. But they will, you know, put their paper filter in the bottom and then they'll put their coffee in. They'll WDT the coffee and get it all looking great, and then they'll freaking get like an OCD or like one of those distributors and do that on top of their WDT'd coffee. And I'm just like, you just ruined what you just did, first of all, because you just like grouped all that coffee back together and now it's not homogenized. And then they'll tamp, and then they'll go to put their freaking portafilter in the group head and they'll just like knock it around, and I'm just like, oh, what are you doing? And but you know, to your point, you can do all the previous steps correctly, but if you're careless, then you just ruined your shot anyways.
Yeah, you can test that out. I mean, if you're working in a cafe or you're a home brewer, just think about, like, make your espresso, throw it up there in the group head, and instead of pulling it out or pulling the shot, take it out and see the dislodgement.
Yeah.
Or do the blizzard test in your hand, and you'll see the coffee just fall right out.
Yeah, for sure. And so anyways, I think there's a lot to that. If you want to extract your coffee higher, if you want to be able to grind finer, then you might have to put in a little bit extra steps of puck preparation. If you're at home, do all the elaborate stuff because you can, and you're just doing this as a hobby.
For sure.
If you're in a cafe, I would say, for us on espressos or smaller volume beverages, we have started using the auto comb because it's more prevalent. The shot itself is more prevalent in those smaller volume milk beverages or straight espresso. I would say for espresso, we would maybe consider doing the paper filter in the bottom when we're pulling it. I wonder how that would change how our coffee was currently dialed in. We just need to start running some tests on that. But I could see that because it really doesn't take that long to get the filter in there. Ours are a little oversized. You can get some that fit the bottom of the basket a little better. So we should just do that and then see if that helps even more. But I know it's kind of controversial for some people whenever we say, some shots are going to be better than others, and we're okay with that. But it's just the reality of the matter. And if you're honest with yourself, you're not going to tell the difference in a lavender vanilla latte, and you kind of have to cut your losses there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just taste is king at that point. It's like, what is there a genuine difference? And if there's not, great.
Yeah.
There you go.
Honestly, most of our experience is in a high-paced environment, so I don't think that we can speak too much on pressure profiling of espresso and how that could change your extraction yield. But there probably is something to that. If you have a machine at home or in your commercial environment and you want to play with that stuff, then by all means, go for it.
Pre-infusion, probably the same situation. Yeah, but I don't think that doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it, but I'm sure it helps.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's just in the same sense of preparing your puck blooming in essence. And then, you can get wild with how your pressure tapers off at the end or whatever. I really want to get a decent espresso machine so we can play with that stuff.
Scott, if you're listening to this, we will take a decent espresso machine.
Yes.
We'll make a video. We'll make a podcast.
Heck, we'll make a whole podcast
We'll make a whole podcast about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's espresso. I think we talked about that a good bit. There's a couple things that you could do. Check your technique, change your grind setting, do everything. Check your puck. Make sure you're not channeling. Maybe even assess your recipe.
Isn't that funny that that's kind of the thesis of both of these episodes? Is it just like go as far as you can until you're channeling and then back off.
Back off. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's kind of a vague conversation because a lot of it is just these intangibles of different little human errors that we make. But it's important. And because all coffee is different, the different solubilities of coffees mean that you're probably going to need to be grinding it at different areas. So it's cool that it's not this one trick pony of if you want perfectly extracted espresso, grind it at 0.5 on your EK. It's nope. I mean, you got to just kind of use your equipment, use your machine, and find your way of getting the best espresso, which is cool. But so what about for all of our pour over filter brew people out there? Do you think, I would say probably under extraction is a little less common than espresso, but still way more prevalent than over extraction?
Yeah, I would say over extraction maybe with pour overs just because of filter clogging would be some of it. If your filter is just getting super, super clogged up because you're using a grinder with an uneven particle distribution, then you might start to over extract your beans. And we kind of talked about that last week. But you on that note, you could have some channeling pretty easily there as well that is leading to the perception of over or under extraction. But, it's kind of the same steps, really. Grind as fine as you can until you reach that point of channeling. But one thing I've seen that kind of helps, everyone has their different methods, but I like to use smaller pulses when I can. More pulses, smaller volumes of the pulses. Because, first of all, you are keeping your water and your slurry at a higher temperature if you're using an electric kettle and then placing it back on the base between every single time. So you're not going to have temperature-related extraction problems. And that's pretty huge. And then you're also able to kind of stretch your brew times. And especially if you're not running into clogging issues, which is honestly one of the reasons that I like flat bottom pour overs in the first place, is because you're going to clog less. So when we're using the XF, it's like we can use smaller brew times. And instead of my final pour being at 2 minutes, my final pour can be at like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I just know it's going to drain super quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And this might be redundant, but you're talking about pulses, and that's literally just the amount. You're just like pouring water for a certain amount of time and stopping. Mm-hmm. That's considered a pulse. Because I think we may have talked about it last week too, but in some people's minds, it's like, okay, bloom, let everybody knows, you let it sit for a little bit, let it degas, and then you just kind of fill it up and hit your number and then back down. And then it like flows all the way down. But with that, you can lose a lot of temperature. You create a way higher likelihood that all those microfines and tiny particles of coffee are going to settle and clog your filter. And that's a certified bad time.
Yeah.
So smaller pulses, keeping your temperature high, keeping that slurry hot. Yeah, it sounds awesome. I'm not going to lie, dude. I don't know the context, but I had a dream about a flatbed filter.
A flatbed filter?
Is that what they're called? The flatbed? Flat bottom?
What was your dream?
It was just in my dream. I was dreaming about it.
You were just leave it in
thinking
your
about
mind?
it.
Is it because we have origamis at our cafes, and we've been talking about switching to Kalita filters and the origamis?
It's got to be.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, let's just be honest on the program. Our pour-overs in our cafes have kind of been bad.
We're not pleased. And
we are even considering pulling pour-overs. And we might have talked about this a little bit last week. I think a lot of it is these automatic pour-over brewers are causing some bypass and thus causing under-extraction.
Yep.
So we even talked about, especially, I mean, the Seraphims is one thing. The Seraphims have just kind of sucked, to be honest. From one brewer to the other, all of the settings exactly the same. They're pushing out like 4 ounces different water between the two at different temperatures. So Curtis, you need to get on top of your stuff. And it's impossible to get in touch with Curtis. So if you're listening, you have a way to get in touch with Curtis, comment below and help us, please. Because we're just kind of out $4,000 on these brewers right now.
Curtis, we love your batch brewers.
Batch brewers are fine. Your service, kind of not. But anyways, so you have that. With the tone specifically, in other ways with the tone, we have gotten it good before. But lately, we've just been under extracting. So we were considering putting the next level pulsar, which I'll grab right now because I'm going to... Oh, my water bottle. We've talked about maybe putting it under the tone because it is full immersion and seeing if there is... it's a no bypass brewer to see if that helps with how we're under extracting using the tone.
Wow.
But we're considering just switching to all coffee shots and doing paper filter in the pour filter, grinding coarser, pulling a super long shot of espresso in parentheses, and then, you run that through a paper filter, and then you have a really good cup. We've been drinking it, and it's been tasting better than our pour overs.
As aforementioned, fuego is what I would call it. Sorry, I said as aforementioned like 8 times today too. Bummer.
So
you love the next level pulsar.
I do. If you're brewing pour overs, this thing's really dirty.
Affiliate link in bio.
Ew. If you're brewing pour overs and you're like, why can't I get it good? And you're using a V60, maybe consider first of all switching to flat bottom to see how you can manipulate extraction that way.
Start dreaming about it like me.
Yeah, because especially with me at home, I can grind a lot finer when I'm using a flat bottom.
Yeah, so you can push it.
Yeah, because especially using, the fellow oat's great, but particle distribution being a touch worse, it's like I can grind finer and not channel whenever I use flat bottom filters in my origami, or I use my XF at home. But with this, there's a lot going on with this brewer, because first of all, during your bloom phase, you can cut off the flow of water, and so your water is still sitting with your bloom, which better preps the bed of coffee. Then you open it up and start draining, and then you can do your pulses. But there's nowhere in this brewer for water to escape past the coffee, because you put a paper filter here, and then you trap the paper filter there. So then you have your bed of coffee, you have water. So all water has to flow through your bed of coffee to escape, unless you have a channel, which you're obviously trying not to. And so you do grind a lot coarser with this, and your brew times, your like final drawdown time ends up being like 5 minutes. But I've had some really good cups of coffee with this lately.
For sure.
And a lot of it is just because you are eliminating the possibility for channeling in some ways.
Yeah, it's fun living in the tension of like, we're here at the lab just trying to figure out under any circumstance what's the best cup of coffee that we can humanly make, and then translating that, like what we learn, and translating it to the cafe of how can we utilize what we've learned in a commercial environment. It's fun, man.
Yeah,
it's a cool job.
Oh yeah,
dude, you ready to review this coffee or what?
Let's do it. Do we have anything else to say about Underextraction? I don't really think I do. It's just like, it
happens.
Try to grind finer. I mean, we could say, maybe we say, why didn't we say anything about just running more water through?
Maybe, maybe if your recipe is really
you're brewing
strong,
1 to 1.5 on your espresso or something.
If you're doing like 20 and 30 out, and you keep having under-extracted coffee, I'm like, yeah, stretch it to 36, 40.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I feel like a lot of times people make a recipe because they love the strength and they love the body.
Yeah.
So I think there's other variables you can manipulate. But for example, like we threw this geisha on the EK, and I can only make it so fine, but I can't like just keep stretching it to extract it, because then you're almost like turning it not into espresso. Because I already made a 52-gram shot. If I want to extract more, it's hard to like just keep doing that. So I think maintaining a recipe for the sake of strength is pretty important. But if you're already brewing really strong coffee, you might be able to afford adjusting your yield.
True.
Long answer, but
that's a good answer.
Thanks. All right, dude. This coffee.
Let's do it.
We're talking Friedhats from Amsterdam. Do you notice how their logo's kind of like different? Like the R is crooked?
Yes, I do see that.
How does that make you feel?
It just reminds me of something that we probably would have done at one point. Every bit of that.
I think we definitely would have done. I really like the type for the coffee.
Yeah. That looks like something you would draw up whenever we used to just like sit around.
I do my fuzzy letters
and designs and stuff. Perfect Halloween letters, perfect for the day.
On the back, so it's like a supplement bottle, a fish oil bottle, if you will.
It does remind me of fish oil for sure.
It's got like this full wrap sticker, and then there's another sticker on the back with it says El Porvenir, which might be the farm. It's got a QR code. Do you want to scan it and see where it goes?
Yes. Sign me up.
Starts with some tasting notes of funky, tropical, mango, and floral. Pretty vague notes. You would think something this nerdy would really give you something crazy.
Go in.
But I like that. I really do like that they did that.
It just takes you to a page with some
More
info, which I like. That's
yeah,
cool.
because they don't have a ton of copy about the coffee.
Yeah.
Not a lot of copy. But they do have all the information you would need. Got their website, got where they're at, 250 grams, process, harvest. It's got its harvest date,
That's cool.
2023.
That says 2023?
Yep.
It says 2022 here. Get your story straight, Friedhats.
All right, well, I just took it down to like a 1.
That's funny.
All right, so content, you want to rate it out of 5? Or you want to look at it?
Yeah, I just want to see if they've got their website. There it is. It's got what? Always got to make sure they have their website. All right. Content out of 10.
Oh, I think it's out of 5, right?
No, UX is out of 5 now. We changed that.
Oh,
a while
cool.
back.
Cool.
All right. 1, 2, 3,
9.
9. Yeah, agreed.
It's just kind of perfect.
Yeah, for sure. If you can't fit it all on here, then put a QR code and take us to some more info. I love the QR code.
The front just looks so clean too. It's got like fun information. It's really cool looking.
Yeah.
What's next on there?
Aesthetic.
Oh, aesthetic. Out of 10?
Out of 10.
All right.
1, 2, 3,
10.
5. That's where we're different, buddy.
I
That's
know.
funny.
I thought I had to boost it, dude.
It's all opinion there. And I knew you were going to give it a 10, and you probably knew I was going to give it a 5.
Well, I appreciate that you gave it a 5. I thought you were going to really bomb it. Well, break down your 5 for us a little bit. What is it? Just preference?
It is preference, and that's where this is kind of funny. It's just opinion.
That's why it's our review, you know?
It's not my personal vibe. Like I said, it reminds me of fish oil, and I think there's a part of it that's like they want that.
They want you to think fish oil.
But that's just not for me. And
coffee's medicine, man.
I respect how you can seal it off. That's nice.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm like, this probably isn't vacuum sealed, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think this is the most practical coffee vessel.
I was thinking about the whole like one-way valve thing. I'm like, is there just not enough pressure that anything's going to happen?
Yeah.
Probably not.
I don't know. It's funny, but fish oil, and then realistically, if I have to be super critical, like I said, this reminds me of something that we would have drawn up whenever we first started.
I would have drawn up.
And I think that's a vibe, sure. I don't think there's much wrong with it. But I feel the same way about their top logo. Like, I feel like anytime I would try to draw something, I would always try to connect letters like that. Mm-hmm. And it thus becomes a little bit imbalanced, but it's their vibe, and that's cool. It doesn't mean that it has to be my vibe.
Totally.
But, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And how about UX?
User experience. Well, this is interesting because it is it's not a bag.
Yeah.
We can rate it first. 1, 2, 3,
5?
4, 5.
I mean,
5. Well, so what I was going to say is that it was great. Like,
yeah.
This is so, not preference, but like not a big deal. But sometimes it's hard to like, squeeze a bag and like pour it out. But just that you can like go like that. It felt good.
Yeah.
And then like this probably goes with aesthetic, but we've talked about this with switching to a box, is that you don't have to worry about like a crinkly bag or anything. Mm-hmm. This is like going to sit perfectly at your house or wherever at your shop, and it's going to be super sturdy and like unchanging.
Yeah.
Steadfast. It's a steadfast little tub. So I had a great time pouring coffee out of it. Mm. I didn't take the seal off though. I don't know how that was.
There was a seal?
It looks like it.
Oh yeah, there totally was. Yeah.
But I'm like, was there like an air hole? What?
Dude, if there was a seal, interesting. Maybe it was nitrogen flushed or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
Okay, now we'll get to the fun part. Even more fun part.
Yeah. Flavor. Let's just start there.
Oh man.
This is tough.
Flavor. So this isn't like enjoyability.
Not enjoyability, just flavor.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3,
10.
9. I had to go 9. I knew you were going to go 10, and I just really wanted it to be 9.
I mean, how can
average.
you get crazier and like better than this? I mean, this is like top of the line. I don't know how much our guy Sam spent on this coffee.
It had to have been a lot.
But like, it's a geisha. It's a natural from Colombia. It's crazy funky and fruity, and it really showed up in the cappuccino. But the pour over was just like so easy.
Yeah.
It was so easy to drink. It wasn't this like acid bomb.
Yep.
So shout out to the roasting on Freed Hats, because you would think that it would just be this really underdeveloped, like raw thing.
I can only think of one coffee I've had that was better than this. And it was a coffee from Proud Mary in one of those like 100-gram paint tins think it was like $40 for 100 grams. I just had to buy it one time. And when I tried it the first time, I was like, this is not worth it. And then I tried it when it was like 3 weeks off roast, and I was like, this is the best coffee I've ever had in my life. But this falls in top 5.
Oh, yeah. Well, this was roasted maybe 6 weeks ago. And I can't help but think that might have something to do with it being so enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Got to let that coffee degas. All right, enjoyability. 1, 2, 3, 9. Yeah, I think I'm like, what could have made it better?
That's why I had to give one of them a 10. 'Cause I'm like, this literally, I don't know how coffee could be better.
Yeah.
And
Dude, you want to bump it up to a 9.5 on enjoyability?
Yeah.
Collectively?
Nine
All right.
and a half.
We'll leave some room for the industry to grow. But that, I mean, it was fantastic. Every single beverage. And I really expected enjoyability to get knocked down by the, you want more?
Yeah.
I expected it to get knocked down by the cappuccino. And
I
just
know.
for the cappuccino to not knock it down.
It wasn't like sour at all. It was like so freaky and awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crunch.
Oh, wow. I forgot that I tasted this, or I smelled it. It smells exactly like Captain Crunch berries. I'm not kidding. Like, spot on. Whoa. And now soy sauce? What? Ponzu?
All right. Crunch. 1, 2, 3. 3.
5.
5?
It was great. It
Dude.
literally developed in my mouth. It was like all berry, and then it was like umami.
I get it. I'm just going to be chewing this for a year because it's so light.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had better crunches.
All right. Put it as a 4.
All right. I'll have to tally these up real quick.
Do, 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 do.
You got anything else to say about the coffee?
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Friedhots. This coffee's awesome. And I'm really grateful that we do this segment because it lets us try really crazy coffee from all over the world.
All right, everyone. The coffee review of the Valor Coffee Podcast has a new king. And it is the Friedhots Colombia
La
Cia Geisha Natural.
Dang.
And my goodness, was it good. I would recommend buying this coffee.
Yeah. I was really surprised that it ended up tasting good on espresso because, as aforementioned, I was grinding it as fine as I can, and I was kind of taking it as like quote unquote big as I can to really justify it as espresso. And it was coming out in like 18, 19 seconds. So I can't imagine how awesome it would be if you were able to like push, because that I'm sure that had more to give too.
Yeah,
but it
sure.
still tasted awesome. Probably kind of under extracted. And then the pour over, I think, got to show that off by I was able to push it a little more, and it didn't let up with its funk and fun and like tropical fruit. But it you were saying too when you're smelling, you're like high C punch. I was like, yes. Those are some really potent flavors. It's like if red food dye was in. You think they use dye?
Yeah, I think
Hold on.
it's dyed.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. Well, the only sad part is that we have to give this coffee back to Sam and we can't drink the rest of it.
Hey, what he doesn't know won't hurt him, all right? I'm going to do some more trial runs on it.
Man. Well, it's been fun.
Yeah, man.
Ross, missed you, but
Do you think Ross would have helped or hurt this coffee's opportunity to climb to the top?
that's interesting. I think that he would have taken our averages, which is funny.
Yeah.
Especially on packaging. I feel like, yeah, he would have fallen somewhere in between. Because he was kind of giving me a little bit of like, yeah, it does remind me of pills.
But he's like, but it is cool.
But it is cool. And then he would have loved how it tasted.
Oh, he would have
Sad
loved
that
it.
he'll never be able to taste this coffee.
Yep, I got to give this back to Sam right now.
But yeah, next week we'll be back with Ross. The three of us, you'll be back. Changed man from Montana.
I'll have a big beard. I'll only wear flannels.
that
going
was
forward.
the coffee beans
Oh,
creeping
no.
into my throat because I'm still chewing on the coffee.
There you go. And you gave it a 3 for a reason. Hey, it was an honor sitting down with you and talking about extraction, man. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, dude. I love you. Love you guys.